still ain't been paid. But I mean, you got to keep working. You can't just shut the lights off. And reserves are huge, 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 huge in this stuff. Really.
It's another Wednesday, which means another new episode of the Skid Steer Nation podcast. It's Ryan Deemer here, your lovely host, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Cason Rawson. He's the owner of Apex Excavating Underground. It's a contracting business he launched back in 2020. After years of hands-on experience in excavating and directional drilling, he started part-time and eventually grew, and now he leads a team of over 8 employees. His journey reflects the confidence and the grit it takes all of us to grow and start a business. Before I introduce Cason to the show, I do want to remind all of you that the show is brought to you by none other than skidsteernation.com. Guys, we have vetted and interviewed all the manufacturers. They make high-quality stuff. The stuff's built to last. You will see an amazing return on investment. You support local family businesses, kind of like what you are. So check out skidsteernation.com for your next skid steer attachment. And if you're struggling getting work or you just want to have a better online presence, don't forget we also have Throttled Up Marketing. Our company, our team can help get you visible online, get you ranking on Google, develop and tweak your website to make it work for you, and get the phone and the leads coming in more for you. So if you're interested in learning more about that, check out getthrottledup.com. Links in the show notes, and you'll have a conversation with none other than me to see if we're a good fit for you. Well, Cason, man, thanks so much for taking the time. I know I caught you luckily on a rain day, so you're not running around, but appreciate you joining the show today.
Yeah, appreciate it. Appreciate the invite. Don't know if I've ever done anything like this.
Yeah, I hear that a little bit from guys. You know, it's a kind of a unique platform just to kind of get a message out of the blue from someone going, hey, you have any interest in being on a podcast? But, we're just a small niche podcast. We're focused on the excavation, the business owners, managers to help, just share insights and tips. And hopefully we can all be better as an industry.
Yep. No, I appreciate it. Like I said, pretty strange. It's kind of cool. I was telling you earlier, I listened to one earlier, and I've never really done the podcast thing a whole lot as far as listen to them, but I listened to the one, and I think I might in my free time listen to a few more. So some of the guys had some pretty interesting things or the one I should say I listened to, they had some interesting things to say and might have more on there. So I'll have to keep listening.
Well, I appreciate that, man. I find that as business owners, we kind of get into our own little bubble. We get so focused on the work we need to do and the business we need to grow that we kind of get that singular focus, and we forget to take a step back and look at the whole picture at times. And I feel like just sharing these stories with everybody just gives you a break to think through and go, oh, stop staring at the grain of sand and let's look at the whole beach.
Yeah, no, yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, that's, learning those lessons the first couple of years is actually, I couldn't really put it a better way myself. You got to look at all of it. You got to be looking ahead, looking at your jobs coming down the road and not just the one you got in front of you. And there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Did you go through that cycle at the beginning where you would push to find work, and then you get work, and then you would focus all your attention on doing the work, and it was like a cycle of busy, slow, because you weren't constantly doing the push for work?
Yes and no. I mean, I guess maybe I had a few weeks here and there that were like that, but for the most part, I don't know, maybe I got lucky. I just kind of took off, and I had jobs lined up right away. First year we did really good, and then doubled it the second year, doubled it the third year. We doubled it last year. I don't think we'll make double this year, but it just kind of, I already knew a lot about bidding, the government contracts I had worked on before I started this. That's what I did, was big, government highways, roads, pipe work and stuff. So I had a good clue about it, but it was more of teaching myself and learning all the other stuff. So I guess in that aspect, between waiting for bids to come out, we'd be knocking one out and be worried, but then it always just worked out that we got one, we come in low on it, and we got it in line, and that's how it's been. So
awesome.
Either lucky or good paperwork, I don't know.
But when you started this, you were always starting with the singular focus of continuing doing that bid work, government work, or larger commercial, not focused on residential very much at all. Is that correct?
No, I started out residential the first year and a half probably, and that was really just to, because I mean, you got to have I already had the experience, and as far as in the government work, but the residential more of backed. I just kept doing those, saving my money to back the government jobs till I full nose dove into it.
So that's a good point you brought up. I kind of want to take just a minute to expand on that. If people are looking at getting into those bidding contracts in their area, like walk us through the importance of having a cash reserve for your cash flow on that, because I'm sure the payment terms aren't fitting you, it's fitting the government.
Oh, it's if you can't go more than 30 days without a paycheck, running payroll, fuel, materials, then to not be rude about it, you probably won't make it. I mean, it took me a lot. I saved every penny I could forever, started out with a smaller government contract, and I still barely made it. I was diving into, my retirement I'd had since I was 18. And then that first pay app came through that was a couple $100,000, and it was like, okay, we're on track. And, right now, for instance, I'm waiting on one from March that is just over 300. I mean, we're in almost July right now, so we're coming up on 90 days, and I still ain't been paid. But I mean, you got to keep working. You can't just shut the lights off. And reserves are huge in this stuff. Really, I mean, it'll make or break you. That's all it is.
So just based on let's go days, not actual hard numbers. How many days of cash reserve did you feel you needed to have before you were confident you could go after any size of a bid project? It was like 60, 90, 120?
Oh, I still can't go after any size. I'd love to, but there's some water main coming up that I'd love to bid, but it's just too big for me, really. Realistically, with the guys I have, I try to keep about 120 from when I start a project, because I've only ever had one time where they took over 120 and we started talking lawyers and we actually did shut the job down, but about 120 days, 4 months of payroll. Most other stuff, materials, you can work with a lot of material manufacturers, or, for us up around here, Aetna, Michigan Pipe, they'll work with you, especially if they know it's a bigger job and they know you're contracted and you're going to get paid. But the biggest thing is payroll. In business, your biggest expense is not your lights, it's not your house payment, it's not your truck payment, it's not even the fuel in your truck. Your biggest expense is payroll. If you don't pay guys don't come in and work. If guys don't come in and work, you don't work. You don't make money. That's all there is to it.
I agree with you 100%. Was that a big thing for you to take as an owner, the responsibility of supporting these families and feeding them, and then that responsibility that doesn't matter where the business is at, payday's payday?
Oh, yeah, and it's massive. I tell my guys all the time, we do a lot of prevailing wage work, and they'll all come in, look what I made this week, look what I made, and they're like, man. And it's, realistically, there has been weeks where an individual guy on a really bad week, an individual employee has made more than the company did. It's like, yeah, you guys, I got to pay you guys no matter if we go up or down. It doesn't matter. And they got mouths to feed, kids, same thing, house payments, truck payments, whatever. And there's no way around it.
Yeah. I hear from a lot of guys that that's probably the number one fear of growing their business is the responsibility of others' pay.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's I can't word it better than you did. You are responsible. At the end of the day, you're responsible for, in a way, their family and their well-being as far as monetary, financial. And it's a lot. It keeps you up at nights, wake up having a panic attack or an anxiety attack, anxiety attack, especially when you get near, you get 2-3 months out and your reserves are running a little lower than what you'd like, and you just start over. I've had it happen before. You can't sleep till 4 or 5 in the morning, or you don't sleep at all because you're just, man, I got to take care of these guys. How am I going to make this work if I don't get paid for another 2 months? I've been there, and yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Did you make a strategic decision to develop a really good relationship with a local bank?
Kinda. I just use Huntington, really. I've tried a couple others, and it's going to sound stupid, but Huntington has the best online banking system is really why. They're not easy to get loans through. Then again, I don't get a lot of loans, or I don't try to get a lot of loans. So never really worried about that. I've had them offer me a couple different times for credit lines, and I'm kind of like loyalty is pretty big for me. There's some insurance companies that, for instance, along with the banks, but just giving you a for instance, a couple insurance companies. When I first started out, I tried to get commercial insurance through, and they had no interest in even trying to work with me. Oh no, get a few years under your belt and then come talk to us. And you're not making enough right now. You've only made 300 this year, whatever. Oh, okay, I remembered that, and I wrote those down, and I found one that ended up helping me with everything. My general liability, auto. I mean, just everything. Workers' comp, health insurance for employees, and I've been loyal to them ever since. Even though now all those other places are coming back. Hey, we'd love to give you a quote on insuring everything. Well, it's the same way with banks. There's a couple of banks that I tried to apply through when I first started, and thought I needed help getting through, and they had no interest in working with me. And now, same thing, they're calling me and sending me emails, and hey, we'd love to get your business. We'd love to give you a $200,000 line of credit at whatever interest. And no, I'm not interested. You guys weren't interested in helping me out when I needed it. So
I love that. I'm very similar in that I'll pay additional insurance charges just to stick with the guy that stuck with me from the beginning, or the guy I can call at 2 a.m. when there's an issue with the business or the house. I feel like I prefer loyalty and service over price.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's not always about saving a buck in this industry. To some people it is. In the big scheme of things, it's not, because quality speaks over quantity any day of the week. And that's...
Yeah. And from personal experiences with insurance, if you start shopping everything based on price, you start comparing apples to oranges, because this one will have a clause that doesn't cover this, and that's why it's cheaper. And maybe that's something you need as a business. So it's really difficult, especially as a business owner, because we don't know insurance. It's really important to find an agent that has your best interest and can talk you through everything you need.
Yeah. Yeah. And I ended up finding a good one. Are we allowed to name companies on this?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
If anyone's ever looking to get into the bigger stuff, Kapnick Insurance, actually. They're out of Southfield, I think, Michigan. I don't know where they're out of. I've never actually been to their office, but they've been great. I mean, they insure, companies smaller than mine to multi hundreds of millions of dollars. Companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They're great. Kapnick Insurance. So
that's awesome. And whether you did this knowingly or unknowingly, what I recommend business owners is, I don't care if you're tiny in year one or you've been doing it for 10 years and you're growing like a weed. You have to think of your insurance agent, your accountant, if you do a bookkeeping or payroll service, your attorney, you have to think of them as team members, part of your business. Granted, they're not getting a W-2 from you and you're not paying them directly, but they're responsible for areas of your business. So you should be interviewing them to make sure that you value, the same way we talk about with employees, make sure your values line up, make sure that they're the type of people you want to work with, they have your best interest, because they're technically part of your team, even though they're not getting a paycheck from your business.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, they are getting a paycheck from your business. I mean, everything you pay them is a write-off. And at the end of the day, like you were just saying, paying a little more, that never hurt. If you're making money and they're making money and you can write it off where you're not, it's a wash at the end of the day. It doesn't matter. I mean, to a point, if you're overpaying by astronomically, it makes sense. But, to go to somebody else to save yourself $4,000 or $5,000 in a year, when the people that are a little more expensive are 100% loyal and they know everything about you and they do what you need, it's just not worth it. It's not worth it to switch for that little bit of money. It's really not.
Yeah. And for your grand scheme of things, I know a lot of guys where, those starting out $5,000's a ton of money, but your insurance wouldn't be that much and you'd be saving hundreds of dollars because you're not insuring a ton of equipment, a ton of employees. So it's all relative to the scale of where you're at in the business.
Yeah, that's more of, a percentage. Now, if you're saving 80% and it's the same insurance, I guess that's one thing. But to save yourself 15 to 20%, it's just not worth it.
Yeah, I've just found, I don't know if you dealt with this with people that you've worked with, those same ones we just discussed, or vendors and all that, but where they under-deliver, they overpromised up front, they under-delivered, it pisses you off. Do you look at that when that happens and say, man, where did I mess up in the process of choosing them, or not?
I don't know. As far as if we're just talking insurance, I haven't had that. Well, I can't say that. The very first company I ever went with, I won't name that one because, yeah, I'm not going to slander no one on here, but they were very much so like that. And I just ended up walking away and going to this other company. And, yeah, no questions asked. I called them in one day and said cancel it all. And they tried to, sell me all these better deals and blah, blah, blah. And nope, no thanks. Just cancel all my accounts, send me a final balance, I'll pay it, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
There's no sense in fighting it or arguing about it. If somebody does you dirty like that, it's not an accident in business. It was meant to, and they're just going to give you the good old business is business. It's not personal. Well, that's fine. But
yeah. I just like to take those moments and reflect on like what did, why did I choose them, or what did I feel they were a good fit, or was it just out of desperation, like I need insurance and nobody else is giving it to me? Because I want to learn. I want to learn from that. So like when I go to the next insurance, my questions about their business, their practice, way drastically different than the questions I asked the guy before.
Oh yeah, sorry. I guess I didn't quite understand how you asked at first. Pretty much. You just start thinking, well, how did I miss this, or I didn't vet them right, or at the end of the day, some people are just tricksters, or some companies, they are just tricksters. And no matter how good you are at research, and you're going to miss stuff.
Yeah. I just hate being the victim. So I always look at it like, where did I mess up in the process?
Yeah. No, I understand.
Are you the same way?
Kinda, yeah, I guess. Sorry, I'm listening to these guys out here swearing and cussing at this dozer. Somebody yelled for a minute, and I was sorry
you're
about
good,
that.
man.
I got a little distracted. I guess to a point, yeah. You feel like a victim sometimes, but at the end of the day, owning the business, everything's your responsibility, and you can't blame no one. You can't take it back, and you just gotta suck it up and learn a lesson from it. That's just the way it is. Especially, you get bigger and bigger. There's a lot of stuff going to happen to you in this, and some of it, you feel like a victim, and somebody did you dirty, but there's sometimes there's no fix to it. There's no way around it. There's nothing you could have done to avoid it. And others there is. I don't know how to say that. And it's not just in the insurance, and it's in bids. I've been low bid on a job and had great references, and I'm not going to name the city or nothing, but I know some shady stuff went down, and some people ended up with some monies in their pockets. And either way, the second place got the bid, even though he was significantly more than me, and I had better references. So it's just across the board in this business. You do feel like a victim often, but most of the time there's nothing you can do. You can't fight it. They're going to do what they want to do.
No, but you can learn from it, right? So like, to me, if I ever had an opportunity to bid that city again, and it was the same board or same leadership, I'd be like, I'll pass.
Oh no, I'm gonna stick it to them again. They actually have a bid coming up here pretty soon. They're really close to me, so it's hard to turn down work from them. And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna bid against the same company, but I've talked to a few different people that they know some people in the state agencies that watch this stuff, and there was no legitimate reason for them to skip my bid. There wasn't. I have the experience. I had the great references, and it was somebody higher up in the city got paid is what most likely ended up happening. So you just got to watch it and be aware of it.
Yeah.
And but anyway, as far as learning lessons, you come back stronger, and you just, exactly like you're saying, you remember it for the next time and be prepared for it.
Yep. Nope, absolutely. Off of that topic.
Sorry if I'm not answering some of these correctly. I'm not very good at the whole talking thing. So.
You're answering them perfectly fine, man.
Oh,
like it's good to hear a different perspective of it, right? Like we all have our own thoughts and feelings, and sometimes it's nice to hear that, to be like, oh, he's seeing it from a different angle. Maybe I should look at that angle as well. And so you're 100% good, man.
Yeah. Nope.
Let's go back to, I think I want to touch back a little bit on like employees. You start growing, like, you know, you probably started out hiring a guy part-time, maybe full-time and a part-timer, and it's easy to manage one or two guys, right? Because it's just basically you and them every day. But when you start getting past, you start getting past 3, 4, 5. Now you're probably running maybe two independent crews, or you've just got a lot of moving pieces to adapt. Like, how do you manage that many employees as the owner?
Well, like right now, you said 8 earlier. I wasn't going to correct you. I actually have 12 guys right now. If I put it on the form 8, I might have miscounted, but no, I got 12 guys right now. It's definitely a handful. It's definitely a handful of keeping track at all times. We are running split crews right now. Having a right-hand man you cannot do without it. As you were saying, when I started, it was just me. I did this stuff part-time on the weekends. Do I got time here to kind of give a backstory on it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I did it on the weekends. So I had a full-time job. I was running a pipe excavator for another company. We were putting in sewer main? Yeah, sewer main and water main in Owasso. So anyway, I was doing that, and then I'd a couple people knew about, or a good amount of people knew about this, so I'd get a septic job, 2 driveways. Well, I'd do those on my Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, I'd knock out the septic. I'd go and knock out the 2 smaller driveways Sunday, collect my checks, save the money, go back to work all week. Well, actually, a really good buddy of mine that he was also at that company with me, he helped me on the weekends when I needed it. So that was definitely way easier. And I tell my guys all the time, I'm over this. I should just sell it all and go back to a one-man crew. I had way more fun, but I never will because I'm stupid. But, you get up to 4 guys 3, 4 guys wasn't bad. Everyone texts each other. We're pretty much all on the same jobs, but, you get up over 6, 7, 8 guys. It gets to be more of a hassle. And that's actually when one of my pretty much my lifelong best friend came to work for me because he had a really good job, so he didn't start with me. But he was like, "Oh man, you're serious about this? Like you're gonna really do it?" I was like, "Yeah, I wasn't kidding when I told you I was starting it." So he came and worked for me, and he did a lot of this stuff with me over the years. And he's my right hand man now. He runs the second crew, and I really don't know if I could have this many guys without him. So. I'm a loner, like you were saying earlier. Being a business owner can get lonely. It does, because I do a lot of stuff alone. But at the end of the day, once you get bigger, no matter how much you want to do it yourself, for the first few years, I was doing everything. I was doing the accounting, the book work, the estimating, the everything. And just the last, 2 years, I've had to start letting pieces of it go, and it sucks because you want to be right there micromanaging it to make sure everything's right, but you got to have guys, and having a right-hand man in the field it's pertinent to success. I mean, you couldn't do it without it. Look at any big company. The owner is not out there every day on every job site by himself.
No, you got to hire A players, man.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, managing them it's a full-time job, right up there with, keeping track of the job. If a guy messes up bad on the job, I mean, yeah, you can fire him or whatever, but the engineer or the owner of the job, the city, they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about how your operator just ripped out a 4-inch gas main that was marked right on spot. They don't want to hear about it. They don't care that operator wasn't doing his job right. It all comes back on you.
Yep.
And you should have been there. You should have been paying attention. You should have been in 20 places at once. That's the only answer you're going to ever get.
Over time, that'll change because they'll get used to your lead being there, and they'll know that he's the guy.
Yeah. Well, I'm talking before I had. Before I had my right hand man.
100%.
Now it's like, now it's kind of coming back on. Hey, you should have been paying attention to that, and you still get the blame, but he. You can put a little off on him, like, dude, come on. You could have been watching that or no. Oh, yeah, I knew better. You should have.
So now that you've delegated some of those tasks out, like whether it be estimating, bookkeeping, payroll, getting the right hand to help with that, and you've been doing it for a little while. You're probably acclimated to it. Would you ever go back to micromanaging everything yourself?
No, probably not. No, no, it's a load off my shoulders because I get back. I'm pretty close to doing what I love my job. I love the work. I like running excavator, big drills, putting in pipe. Building roads. That's what I like. I tell my guys all the time, I'm not a good boss. I mean, not in a bad sense, like mean or nothing. I don't like paperwork. I started this because I love my job, but along with loving your job, you got to get all the, when I started, I had to take on all the paperwork, because I couldn't afford to, or I didn't want to afford, I should say, putting it all out. But now that it's off my shoulders now that's off my shoulders and I can go back to doing what I love. I mean, most of this week I ran an excavator. We're digging up water mains. That's what I love to do. So no, I probably would never go back to micromanaging unless I went back down to a 1 or 2 man crew, which I probably will never do. So
the reason why I ask that is because there's probably a ton of guys listening to this that are at that precipice of needing to find a right-hand man or needing to offload some office work or whatever else, and they're afraid to do it. So, here's a guy that went through the fear, still did it, 2 years later says, yeah, I would have done it again. Just to remind people, like, it's natural to feel fearful in that, but it's an evolution step. And the only reason you're afraid is because it's the unknown to you.
Well, if the way I ended up having to look at it was like my accountant. She's about $2,000 a month. She now handles my payroll, my receipts, etc. And she's really fast. She only works a couple hours a week, so I think I overpay her a little bit. But I mean, it's when 3 years ago when I first had talked to her about doing it, she had told me, and I was like, man, that's a lot. It's a lot of money a month just for some bookkeeping and stuff. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, look at all the hours, because I'm not as good as she is. Look at all the hours I have into running payroll every week, into doing my receipts. I'm paying her I don't know what her rate is, $200 an hour, whatever it is. I mean, I could be on a job, and realistically, I've figured when we're doing really good, we make anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 an hour. Well, all those hours I could have been doing that on these bigger jobs. Instead, I was doing book work, and the job wasn't going the way I wanted it to, so I wasn't making that money. So at the end of the day, and this is just from my size, you can scale it to a smaller company or whatever, but paying that bookkeeper, you're paying to keep you working in the field, making more than what you're paying them an hour. It's
100%.
a trade up. It's a trade up for paying her a little bit to make a lot, or not paying nothing to make nothing at all. That is the trade up.
You have to look at it like leverage, right? You leveraged her skill set to maximize your skill set in the field. Yeah,
leverage. That's a good way to put it.
Because you think about it, especially when you're first starting out, like, to me, the first hire of any small business should be like part-time or full-time office admin support. Yeah. How many hours do you spend writing envelopes, doing a check, running to the bank, sending an email? And you could hire somebody for, depending on where you're at in the country, anywhere from $12 to $18 an hour to do help with that stuff.
Yeah.
Why in God's green earth, if you're charging $200 an hour, $300 an hour or more, why would you do it yourself?
Yeah, and that's for smaller stuff. I actually use a firm. She's at a firm. You're
at a different level though. But if you were back, even if you were a one-man band, like if you think back now, I'm like, God, I could have found somebody for $15 an hour to work 20 hours a week.
Oh yeah.
What an idiot I was for not doing that, because that would have been an extra 10 hours a week in the field actually producing revenue.
Yeah, part of that extra 10 hours or whatever, you could have been, part of that would have paid her salary for the week,
100%.
And the other half, pocket or whatever you want to do with it. And it's definitely a trade up, but I was, just like you said, I was super nervous about it because it wasn't even just payroll. It's, payroll. When I started, I did a lot of the mechanicking myself, so I'd have to pull off a job to come fix something, and I got a guy who does pretty good now. I mean, it's every aspect to keep the business functioning.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, if you can the biggest thing is keeping the work. I mean, everything leads back to having the work, finding the work, keeping the work. But if you can do that, I mean, it's so much off your shoulders to sub a lot of. I call it sub because that's but it's a lot off your shoulders to put let somebody else handle it for you. It really is. I didn't think it would be, but I truly think it's paying off. So.
Absolutely, because you're the one that has to. I mean, you're the owner of the business, right? So you're the one that's going to close that big deal. You're the one that's going to meet with the city manager or the GC of a contract. Nobody else can sell that job like you do. So if you're spending all of your time wrenching and paperwork, then how are you getting those contracts to get the work in the pipeline for the future?
Oh yeah. Well, it's finding more time because I also did, and I actually still do. I don't sub any of that out, but I do all the estimating still. That is one part. That is one paperwork part of the job I like is the estimating. But some guys I will probably get to that point. Once we get over once we get up over the $5-10 million line. I mean, realistically, probably going to have an estimator. It's the biggest thing I'm afraid of because, I know what I'm doing. I know what jobs I like, what jobs I bid on. But yeah, accounting, a lot of the paperwork checks, like you said, estimating is a really big one. Just that real quick. Estimating is a huge one, and that's going to be my next step is having to hire a full-time estimator. And, you pay an estimator anywhere 70 to a good one gets up around 110, 120,000 in our area. And to me, that still seems like a lot, to pay a guy to sit in the office all day. But at the same time, if I can find a guy I'm comfortable with, he can bid the jobs right all day. I can go out and do them. And as I said earlier, do what I love doing. So,
yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the things I've heard, and it's not from the excavation industry, from other industries, right? But it's finding that guy, like estimates for us, especially for you, is a huge part of your business. It's make or break the rest of it, right? If your estimates suck or you miss it, you're out. But they talk about hiring a guy or developing within and starting early, figuring out that, hey, by December 2026, I want to be 100% able to not touch a single estimate.
Yeah.
And that way you can slowly work together. And like, there's guys that bring in like COOs of law firms, and they know it's a 12-month process before you start seeing any results, because they got to learn the business. They got to learn how you bid. They got to learn what margins, you got to soak all that in. So some of those key roles, it's really difficult to wait until you need it to hire it, because then you're just creating more chaos for you and you're trying to eliminate it. So it's almost better to be like, hey, we can balance this out, start a little early, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months before it gets crazy and get this guy somewhat up to speed.
Yeah, as far as teaching them exactly what you like, what you want and stuff. And I've thought about it many times hiring. I actually have a buddy that he graduated engineering school 2 years ago, and he's doing some other engineering, but I've talked to him now probably 2 or 3 times about coming in, and he's 22, 23 right now, so he's a little bit younger than me. But I've talked to him a couple times, and he's interested, and it's kind of on my back burner on really sitting down with him and hashing it out. But he'd be a great one. He doesn't already have, hopefully anyway, any bad habits from another company on wrongly balancing a bid. I can probably teach him how I want, and I've thought about it many times. Yeah.
And then the other thing and I use this philosophy in every area of my business, but it's the 80% rule, right? So if I could hire a guy and get him up to 80% speed, that's 100% awesome, because now I can just review, tweak, and edit versus starting from scratch, knowing that the last 20% will flesh itself out over time the more we work together.
Yeah, he'll train into it basically. Yeah. As far as figuring out every little detail.
But imagine if you ended up and all the prints and everything you needed for an estimate were there for you, and you just had to spend an hour, 2 hours reviewing it all, making some notes saying this is wrong, why'd you do this? Yeah. Like, so much better than spending 30 hours putting the estimate together.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm actually under my phone right now. Is four different bids for some city jobs. So
Yep.
I know the feeling very well. Yes.
Yeah. So, but like that's a little mantra that I even tell myself from time to time. Like when my employees are like doing stuff, but it's not perfect. I'm just like 100%, 80% is 100% awesome because they did all the grunt work and I just got to put the finishing touches on it.
Yep. Yep. You got to go in and make it how you know it should be.
And if I
Basically.
micromanaged it, I wouldn't have time to do any of it because I'd be doing all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's no, but it's not even just estimators when you're talking like that. You're talking everyone. I mean,
Everyone.
80% is, yeah, if I could get all of my guys to show up and give me 80% effort every day, I'd be the biggest water contractor in the state, but not there yet.
That's the goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I would use those exact numbers with the welders when I ran the manufacturing business because we would always see a slowdown in the winter, right? And I'm like, hey, I'm letting you guys operate at 50, 60%, no layoffs, not riding your ass, none of that shit. We're going to need 80, some weeks 90% during the summer peak out. I want you to remember your November schedule and January schedule when I need you to grind it out in July.
Oh yeah. No, we're the same way here. Actually, we do winter work, like if somebody calls for an emergency job, but last couple of years we've actually worked right up till the first of the year and then laid off till March. But this year we're on an actual schedule. I'm going to try to have everything I want done this year, done by November 15th, opening deer season, which is what a lot of companies up here around me do, and I've never done it before. We're going to try it, but I tell them all the same thing, when they're sweating and complaining that we're doing 60, 70, 80-hour weeks. It's like, okay, well, you can complain about it now, but come January, February, when you were wishing you had 10 hours, are you going to complain? Oh no, that's a good point. That's a good point. It's like, well, it's your winter time in this business is your vacation time. Guys want to call in. Oh, July 4th week, can I take 2 weeks off to go? No, if you do, I'm sorry, I don't want to sound like, I'll give you a day or two off extra, but we got stuff to do. Your vacation time's in the winter. I mean, we got 8 to 9 months a year to make money. That's it.
Yeah, it's kind of like an unwritten rule if you're going to get into this industry that peak season's peak season.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing you can't fight Mother Nature. I mean, you can't. So.
No, all great advice, man. All great advice. So you do a lot of directional boring too, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Would you say that's like what percentage of your business does that take?
70 probably. 70 to 80 maybe. Somewhere in there. Anything from I do a lot of water services. Lead service line replacements are pretty big. We go in, do whole cities of lead service line replacement. Do some big water main, big sewer main, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. And you did that work before you started your business?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I did that. Actually, the guy, my superintendent, he's pretty much my lifelong best friend. We actually started doing that right out of high school together, on and off, and we got good at it between doing that for some companies and then doing big dirt work and pipe work and roads for my family and some other places around here. I always decided that's what I liked. That's what I was good at. So I bought a really small drill and started out there. Bit a small city. It's not even a city, a village basically of water services. We did good on it. And another one of the things that just kept snowballing. And right now I'm bidding on 300 and some in a pretty local town here. So, and when they pay anywhere from 5 to 10 a service, it adds up fast, but it's also a really easy thing to mess up. A couple good utility hits on a job, which thankfully we've been really careful and we try to be on top of it. We don't have any utility hits currently, but I've seen companies go under on just a couple utility hits, especially you hit a big fiber, a big gas, or it can put you under. And drilling, it's definitely a dangerous game to get into.
Yeah, I would assume you don't just grab a drill and go to work. Like you've got to go get some experience on that.
Yeah, no. A lot of guys start out in the fiber work, which is still big. That's actually how we started too, but I have no interest in touching it or nothing. But
But with the fiber work, is it safe to assume, my friend does it around here, but you're going to be a subcontractor for a GC who's got a contract with Google or Amazon, or it's like you own a business, but you're on someone else's schedule.
Yeah. And you got a 50% chance on getting paid too. And I never got that. I got stiffed. Cause I was a sub when we first started. They wanted me to go get a DBA, and I did. And so they're like, oh, well, you're your own company now. You just bill us. And I don't remember there in 2 months or so back in 2014, something like that, 2014, I think. We did 2 months worth of work, had about $40,000 in, work done, just me and my buddy, and we never got paid for it or nothing. And I know 100 guys with those stories. It's a dangerous fiber, is because you're working for a private company that's working for a private company that's working for a private company, and so on and so forth. And by the time, a lot of these little fiber companies and drilling companies, what they'll do is they'll hire subs, and they'll work you and promise you pay, and then we're bankrupt, sorry. And 2 weeks later, you'll see the same guys opened up under a different company name, and there's nothing you can do about it. You just got to write it off. So have no interest in doing fiber or telecom. It's a dangerous, dangerous job.
Yeah, my friend Sean, I'm sure he had very similar experiences, but he ended up finding like 1 or 2 GCs that were good.
Good ones. Yeah.
So he ended up buying a house in Virginia because he was getting so much work in Virginia Beach. And as long as that GC was the GC, he would basically go wherever they needed him.
Yeah, no, there are good companies. I'm not saying they're all like that, but for the smaller guys starting out, that's 90% of the time, that's how it goes for a lot of these small guys, and that's how they get themselves in trouble. And I already knew it right away, so I didn't even attempt it. I went right for the water services, the government contracts. You are guaranteed to get paid. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It might take 4 months, and you might have to run 4 months of payroll, but you will be paid, and that's all there is to it. Legally, you have to.
Yeah. Yeah, it just makes you look back and go, God, if I only knew what I know now back then, I would have asked better questions. I would have asked to talk to some other subs. I would have done some due diligence.
What you were saying earlier, you kind of, I guess I didn't think about that earlier, but yeah, you do feel like a victim in that scenario, because you just got the coals put to you, and there's nothing you can do about it, because you can't get blood from a turnip, and that's all there is.
That's where I changed my mindset. Like, hey, be a victim, whether it's 5 minutes, 5 hours, whatever it is. Be pissy. Happened. I get it. Let it out, and then turn around and go, okay, where did I fuck up in the process? I was so excited to get the job. I never qualified him. I never asked for references. I never saw the contract. Like, I skipped so many steps. I'm never going to do that. Like, learn from it, take ownership of it, and apply it to the next.
Yeah, you just, for us at the time, that was over 10 years ago now. We were younger. We were in our, late teens and stuff. And,
you were just excited.
Yeah, $40,000 in 2 months. $20,000 a month.
That's a ton of money when you're in the teens.
That was a lot of money to us. So we were just seeing
like being a millionaire.
Yeah, we were seeing dollar bills. Like, there's this and this. We don't even care. We'll do it. We'll do it. We don't care. And mistake.
Yeah. Again, like hindsight. Like, you should have just took a breath, vetted, looked at the contract. But that's what. And to me, I don't know about you, Cason, but at some level, whether it's a $40,000 job in your teens, a $50,000 job in your 30s, or your first big municipal job, you're going to get a lesson that you're going to have to learn from. Like, it's going to happen.
Yeah, you learn lessons every day in this stuff. Even, I've been, realistically, my family, I'm not going to name the company, but they own a fairly large, one of the larger ones in the state size excavating company. And that's how I started. I've been doing this stuff since I started in the shop when I was 9, sweeping shop floors. My dad would take me on his way to work, drop me off at we call it the shop, but it's where the yard and all that stuff is. And me and my brother started sweeping floors, burning garbages, watching, handing guys wrenches up under equipment. And that's how I've been doing this stuff my entire life. And, so sometimes I do get ahead of myself, and I've seen just about everything there is to see, I think. And And then something happens that just shocks me, and I'm like, well, learned a lesson today, didn't I? And yeah, it happens every day. Trust me.
Oh yeah, it does. That's crazy. So a question came to my mind while we were talking about this. You're doing a lot of like lead pipe replacements for cities, villages, municipalities.
Yep.
And trust me, I get it. There's probably 15 years of work just in your backyard there. But have you thought about what happens, or what is your growth process as that work starts to wind down because the replacements are being met?
Oh, I do other stuff too. I mean, water main's probably never going to quit. I build roads. I did 2 roads for a 2 full street. It's called a streetscape, but it's a road reconstruct. We did storm pipe, storm catch basins, milled all the asphalt off, sub base gravel, and then paved. I subbed the paving out, but I can build roads and all that stuff too. So the lead's just, it's easy. It's easy work. There's a lot of it out right now, so we are focusing on that. But
yeah. Would you expand your service area and like get a travel crew if that was an opportunity that came up?
I don't know. I've been offered to go to Detroit and stuff, which is 3.5 hours from me a couple times, but there's still so much of it up here, and there's just so many little towns up here. I don't know. Maybe down the road if it comes to it, but no, right now I probably wouldn't. Just because there's so much stuff here. I mean, we just picked up another water main job. We have a few thousand feet of 10-inch sewer main to bore here in August. I think what else? Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of work right now. I see on a lot of the Facebook groups and stuff, the guy, the work's running out. I don't know where they're seeing that, because we're in June, July right now, and there's still 30, 40 new jobs coming out every day, which is unheard of. Normally jobs have really slowed down coming out for bid by May. No, we're almost to July, and they're still coming out steady every day.
That sounds like you're going to have a great year.
I hope we're trying. We're off to a better start than we did last year, but now we just got to keep carrying it through. So
as a guy that's, you're growing your business over 5 years, you've got a dozen employees. What would you say, whether it be a gut feeling or like actually numbers on paper, like what are like the top 2 or 3 things that you always want to have like your thumb on? Is it margin on jobs or payroll cost or estimating approval rate? Like, what are the 3 big things that you feel as an owner that you feel like if I know these numbers and I get them where I need them, the rest of them will fall in line?
I don't know if I could really word it better than you just did. Those 3, really: estimating, and along with that, estimating costs on the job and payroll, because if you're upside down on any of that, it's going to come back to bite you. And would be another. I mean, really, those 3, those are huge. You can pretty much work with anything else, but if you estimated a job wrong, your materials are wrong, and your payroll was wrong, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
I've seen. I was talking earlier about balancing bids, finding a good estimator that can do that. Well, for instance, somebody just bid on a job I was looking at, and they stacked a whole bunch on some items that didn't matter, like it's not an important part of the job, but they bid them for super high. But then the pipe price, I averagely bid for 1-inch water service. I normally bid anywhere from $50 to $70 a foot. Well, copper right now is $15 a foot for 1-inch. This guy bid $3 a foot, and it was it was almost 20,000 foot job. Well, your footage is almost always going to end up over. So you want your footage to be right, because your quantity on your unit pricing is going to be over. And I mean, the guy didn't end up getting the job because I was looking at it, but what if he would have? Right. I was thinking about that. What if he would have got that job and ended up with 30,000 feet, but his big pay items that he bid high that was completely unnecessary, those didn't happen, but he ended up having to put a whole bunch of footage in.
Yeah, he's out $300,000.
Oh, way more than that. It would have been millions. It was a $2.5 million bid.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, insane. like $3. He'd have been paying for the copper at $15 a foot. He'd have been getting paid $3 a foot, and then he still got to put it all in with all the drills, excavators. He'd have been so upside down on it. So I don't know who their estimator is, but that is a good way to get a company in trouble fast.
And that could just be an error, right? Maybe it meant to be 30.
Oh no. They did it across the board for 1 inch, 1.5, and 2 inch. It was $3, $4, and $5. So yeah, no, they did it on purpose. I don't know why. It kind of baffles me, but whatever, I guess.
Wow.
Teach their own. So, but yeah, I mean, you got to keep your thumb on that. You got to keep a thumb on the progress of the job, how it's going. Every week I sit down, I write down how many feet we put in, what it paid, how much the pipe was coming out of that. Every other line item, a curb stop. We bid those. Let's say we did 25 curb stops this week. Well, it costed me $2,500 for the curb stops. I had this much labor, this many hours into it. 8 guys that were on that job at 36 to 56 an hour. And then figure it out. And it's like, well, we did 25. We did the number we wanted, but it took us twice as long as what I figured it would. So I had it figured for, let's say I had it figured for 80 man hours, and it took us 160 man hours to do it. It's like, well, I'm going to be upside down on that item. I mean, you got to keep track of that stuff. It's my first year on, or not my first year, my first decent sized job that I got that was a lot of water services. It took me a couple months of doing that. I kept coming back with thinking I was making more than I was. I was like, man, what is... So I wrote it all down, and I was like, that's where I'm missing stuff. That's where all that money and brass went right there. That's where all that money, I figured it for a 5% copper loss, and I'm coming up 40% shy on copper. I thought I put in 2,000 feet, and I only got paid for 1,100, 1,200. It's like, something's going on here. So... I mean, you got to keep on top of that stuff. And that one, the 30 to 40% copper loss was actually on the engineer, and because they were measuring wrong, and nobody ever would have caught it if I wouldn't have wrote it down like that and been like, hey, something's wrong here. So I went back to the job, took a whole day rewheeling all the footage we did, and said, yeah, I've got 1,930 feet. You have 1,100. So where's this difference?
Right.
And that's... I mean, it's huge. But, yeah, those 3 things, if you can keep track of them, your payroll expense, how many man hours you're burning, how much you estimated the job for, and bankroll. That's a big one, too, because it's, I list out almost every day I go through, I list out what my standing balance is, what my accounts receivable, what I have due in the next however much for bills. So I automatically negate that, and it's like, well, I'm going to be within 10%. If I get this paycheck by this date that I'm expecting it. Let's say, you're looking at, and it's easy for guys to do, they get a great big check, and, let's say a smaller company, they do a good sized job, they get a $100,000 check. Well, to a small company, that's like, oh my God, it's crazy. And they're just looking at that and, I had $10,000 in this come off, and they forget about the other stuff. And then the next day, man, again, I got $100,000, and then, I had 15,000 come off for this, but it's just 15. Well, they're forgetting about the 10 from the day before they thought about, and sit there and list all that stuff out. List out that 10, 15. I owe this guy $2,700. I owe this company 31,000. I owe, and then at the end, you're left holding $4,000, going, oh wow, I don't have $100,000. It's
I worked my ass off for only $4,000.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said earlier, learning lessons going forward or feeling like a victim. Yeah, you're a victim of yourself right there. I mean, you got to keep track of that stuff.
Only if you do it again, right?
Well, that's what I'm. You got to learn a lesson from it, see what went wrong. If you really, really think that you estimated the job right and you got it right, well, then somewhere from getting the job to finishing the job, you messed something up that shouldn't have been messed up.
Yeah. I don't know, Cason, I always preach, education is not free. You may not get a diploma to hang on your wall, but you're going to pay for your education one way or another.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and sometimes the lessons are more than tuition ever could have cost.
100%. But I've thought about just just to add a little lightheartedness to it after the dust settles, to be like, man, I should set up like a website page where business owners could submit their errors. and then we'll have like a Skid Steer Nation School of Hard Knocks diploma that would ship them with their business name on it or their name on it. Just to that's when I lost 80 grand on that water job for that city down south.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when I hit that gas that I thought was 4 foot and it was only 3,
Right, yeah. But
well,
just,
did you have somebody hand spot it? No, I just assumed.
No, I just assumed it. Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. What's the goal with Apex, man? Like if we're talking to Cason in 2030, what's the business look like?
I don't know. Like I said earlier, I think to myself every other day that, man, this is a lot of stress. I've got gray hair at, 30, and I just turned 30 actually 2 weeks ago, and my girlfriend was making fun of me. I got gray stripes going down the side of my head, and she's like, "Man, you're getting old fast." I was like, "It's all this damn stress." I was like, as I said earlier, I should just quit, go back to 1 or 2 man, but I'm not. I'm too hard-headed, so I'll just keep going. But I don't know. I'd like to, this year will be around. I mean, realistically, I'd like to end not getting much bigger than as far as a financial and company size, 20 million a year. It's kind of the end goal. This year we'll have a pretty good year. So we're about a quarter of the way this year, pretty close. Hopefully another 5 years, we're up around the 20 mark, and I could probably handle 20 to 25 employees to do that. But anything over that is like, because I mean, that's a pretty big thing. At least what I've always figured it as is with a good enough crew, good enough guys, paying them. We do mostly prevailing wage work in Michigan, which I don't know if anyone on here really knows what that is, but it's the state wage. It's, state sets it on most of these grant and government jobs, but that's mostly what we do. I try to figure an average of, by the time it's all done, it'd be nice to make right around $1 million a guy. And then, you pay a guy out of that right around 10%. So if you could have 20 good, really just Class A, amazing employees and I'm talking, this is like dream scenario. This is really, if you could get 20 really, really good guys that just all know what they're doing, they work together great. You got, really good operators, which is easy for an operator on prevailing to do, is get up around 100,000 a year. If you can make $1 million a guy, pay them 10%, get right up around $20 million in work done for a year, I'd be happy. That'd be, I never want to get bigger than that. It'd be just way too much. I mean, really.
Yep. Yeah, I feel like, especially in your realm of work, from guys I've talked to and friends of mine that have been business owners and like that, it's a grind to get to 10 million, but at 10 million, you're 100% sustainable. And like you said, when you get past 15, 20, you got to make the commitment to becoming a $100 million company or scale back to 20.
No, and that's, I don't never want to I've thought about that many times. I don't never want to get bigger than that. And even that might be stretching it. Like I said, that'd be dream scenario. If I could hire all the right guys at the right times, get the right jobs, that'd be ideal. But realistically, if I got to be real about it, maybe 10, double what I am right now, around 10 would be comfortable. 20 would just be more up to say, hey, I did it. I can do it, just to prove a point that I could do it, because my family wasn't very happy when I started this stuff. So
I gotcha.
Nobody really had any faith in me, so I did it, and it should be nice to wag a finger and I did it. You know what I mean?
Man, you kind of need that lack of faith, don't you? Because it's that fire.
Oh yeah, you got to have something pushing you. You got to have ambition, or I would have given up 2 years ago when I made more money in a month than I had ever made in a year. It's like, you still need ambition. I knew I wanted to get bigger than that. So, but now from here, I am we're all comfortable. I got good guys. We all do really good. I don't know. Just like I said, that's dream scenario. But if that don't pan out, then about 10 a year, and that's it. Just ride it out for however long until either I have kids and they take over, or somebody buys me out and I can retire at 40. I don't know.
Yeah.
Haven't thought that far ahead yet. So.
I gotcha. Yeah, it's funny because a couple guys, I think some past guests in the podcast, like they had a business that they exited for good money. And what do? They end up going back into business for themselves as a one man and an employee crew.
Oh yeah.
For stating the same reasons you are, right?
It's a lot, man. It really is. It's every day from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, and a lot of times when you're sleeping too, you have dreams about it. So if you do it right, it does consume your life.
There's a book called The Alchemist, and I can't remember the author's last name. His first name is like Paulo. But it's basically a book of a sheep herder sitting under a tree watching his sheep, and was like, God tells him about this treasure that he's supposed to have, and he needs to go on the journey to find the treasure. And it takes him decades because he stops here, gets married here and all that. And he continually follows the entire path, and it led him right back to the exact tree he was laying under when God told him about the treasure. The treasure was underneath of him at the beginning of the book. And it was all about, like, you got to go on the journey to realize where you were is where you're supposed to be. So, like, the guys that want to get to 20 million, like, you got to go do it, because otherwise the what if kills you. But don't be mad if you go back to 510.
I'm almost positive I read that book in college, but I'm pretty sure I did. But yeah, because I'm pretty sure I did. But yeah, no, I get exactly what you mean. It's either that or, the journey was the treasure.
The journey was the treasure, 100%.
The experience and the journey was, and that's, yeah.
Yeah, I have to remind myself, fall in love with the process, because the end result doesn't really make a difference in your life.
Well, see, that's what I loved first, was the process. That's why I started doing this. Like I said earlier, I love my job. I do. I would. There might be one other thing I'd rather do than this. It's just not financially sustainable. I do custom woodworking.
Okay.
Like build tables. I build wood sculptures, stuff like that. But there's no money in that. But between those two things, those are the two things I love doing. And yeah, I mean, the journey's my favorite part through this whole thing. Like you were just saying, which you stated it perfect, is the end goal really doesn't matter. It doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, again, you set a goal to do $1 million in revenue, and then you hit it, and you're like, great, what's next?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you enjoy it for a day, maybe 3.
Yeah.
Where if you fall in love with the process, everything else just works itself out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it all, I mean, yeah, it pans, I've gotten probably lucky at a couple turns, just being in the right place at the right time, but that's a good way to state it. Yeah, it does pan itself out. It takes some effort and nudging stuff in the right direction sometimes, but it will pan itself out eventually.
Yeah, and no matter where you're at, you've always got a goal you're going after, and if you've got a half-assed detailed plan and a little bit of grit and a lot of discipline, you're going to end up better than you were today.
Yeah.
So, what great advice, man.
I agree.
Great advice. Oh, on a side note, just because you brought up woodworking, do you ever watch that? I think his name's like Blacktail Woodworking on YouTube. I don't remember. This dude makes these amazing, like $16,000, $20,000 tables and stuff, and he documents it all on YouTube.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
I could watch that guy for hours.
Oh yeah, he has an awesome shop set up there. Well, because that brand he runs, because I run all Jet and Grizzly tools, and I just have a little personal shop, but he has like the nice stuff that's like $20,000 for a table saw. It's like, oh cow, like he's got some nice stuff.
But he does a really good job of being just technical enough for like keeping people that know woodworking engaged, and non-technical to make guys like me want to watch him.
Oh yeah, he did a big desk here, I think last year or something. They said, I don't remember what the heck he said. It was like 40 or 50 grand for a desk. I was like, a desk? Are you kidding me? Like, I gotta see this thing. And then I seen it, and it was all custom, like California black oak or black walnut, and it was beautiful. That's something I would dream to build. Yeah.
He did that waterfall desk with the black epoxy that went from the top all the way down the side, and I was like, I don't want to know the price, but God, I would love to have that desk in my office.
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
So
I know,
beautiful.
I know what guy you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, I don't quite do stuff like that. But I do a lot of countertops, walnut countertops, tables. I don't, I don't think I can send a picture on this thing, but I do like these realism trout and steelhead and stuff that look like they sit up on their fins. They're carved out of oak and walnut and stuff, and I Dremel tool them all out, and they
You do
look
the
like a
whole
real
thing by
fish.
hand, or do you CNC the beginning?
No, I do it all by hand.
All by hand.
But, yep, all hand carving and Dremel tools, and no, they stand up on their fins like this, and I mean they look like a real fish. They're just made out of wood.
We're gonna have to chat. I'm gonna need one of those trout.
All my buddies tell me that. They're like, dude, start selling these. I'm like, no, I don't even know how to get into all that shit.
Well, you don't have to sell them on Etsy, but you could make a deal with me because we trout fish every year. It's like my favorite. That's my weekend to like literally recharge.
Oh yeah, I went last night. We went till midnight. The hecks are hatching up here. The giant mayflies.
Yeah.
They just started this week. So we went last night. We're going tonight. We're going the night after. The night for the next 3 weeks. So
We go to the driftless region and like just walk the streams, the small streams, and catch, 14-inch trouts, good sized trout, 18 inches. You got monster on your hands in those little streams.
Yeah.
But the moment my feet hit the water and you can hear that brook babbling, I'm not kidding you, Cason. I could care less if I catch a fish. It's just like me, no thoughts, beautiful country, fighting against a beautiful fish, and that's just helps me recharge so fast.
Yeah. I said earlier that the only 2 things I really like doing are woodworking and excavating, drilling, my job. But I did lie because fishing is probably ahead of both of them. But I ain't no professional fisherman. I just love doing it. So
yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, Cason, I can't thank you enough taking time out today. I think your journey is inspirational. You threw a ton of value out there. Great things we discussed. I've thoroughly enjoyed every second of this. I feel like I've learned from your experiences today. So I just want to say thank you for coming on. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Like I said, I've never really got to do anything like this. I thought it was pretty cool. So, if you ever have any questions or anything, down the road, you were saying earlier, check back in a few years or a year or whatever. Yeah.
This was pretty cool, actually. I never got to do nothing like this. So, and actually, when when we talked originally at the same day, AIS Michigan, which they deal Komatsu, John Deere, all that stuff, equipment, they invited me to go to the Underground convention in Kentucky coming up in August. So 2 in 1 day of like just crazy things I've never gotten to do. I was like, whoa, this is pretty cool. I'm just used to being a ditch digger, at the end of the day. So no, it's pretty cool. No, I appreciate the opportunity for sure. Absolutely, my friend. Well, guys, if you want to reach out, thank Cason for his openness, his vulnerability, his insights. We're going to make sure there's a link to his business Facebook page. You guys can send him a message on there. Remember, man, you guys beg your customers for reviews. You always get agitated when they don't give them to you. Well, this podcast is kind of like your business. So if you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and even share it on other social media platforms and help us grow our audience so we can keep giving you great content. Until next week, guys, keep grinding.